Why did anyone want to work for the Sheik? By all accounts, it sounded like working in hell. He never put anyone over, including, but not limited to, Andre the Giant. If you got in the ring with him, you came out a bloody, if still mostly functional, mess, and he took his own gimmick to a ridiculous extreme. Was the money just that good? Is there something I'm missing? Was Detroit the Walmart of professional wrestling, the kind of place you work at for a few months and then get the hell away from it, never to look back? Or do I just not know what the hell I'm talking about? It's been known to happen. Just ask my wife.
Well, I hate to tell you this, but it's happened again. Because you don't know what you're doing. No, here, why would anybody want to work for the Sheik? Work with the Sheik sometimes may have been a different story, but that depends on the era too. But work for the Sheik from the mid-50s was one of the biggest stars in the business. He was one of the biggest maybe the biggest box office heel attraction because of his longevity and the way he was featured everywhere from the 60s, a decade of 60s, 70s, and 50s too. He was the boss of Detroit and owned his own territory and his own television show, and he was heavily figured into the NWA. He was one of the guys that had a lot of say in the NWA at the annual meetings and got a vote on the champion and etc. Sheik did huge business in Detroit for years, and if you came into Detroit and you worked with the Sheik on top, and there's 10,000 people in the Kobo, who's he paying? He's paying himself, and he's paying who he's working with because he's figuring that's who's drawing the money. But at that time also, if you were a wrestler in the Midwest and you could work Cincinnati and Columbus, Ohio, and Detroit, Michigan, and Lansing and Grand Rapids, and those towns, especially when business was huge in the 60s or during the war in the 70s, we talked about Sheik was spending a lot of money to run Bruiser out of Detroit because he was having 14 matches a show, and those were big name stars. They didn't all come just to do the Sheik a favor. He was spending a lot of money. And I've also heard that the Sheik would take care of guys. Bobo was like family. Even though he'd kayfabe Bobo in front of his own family because he didn't associate with the baby faces, Sheik always took care of Bobo Brazil and always took care of, the guys in his inner circle that he had drawn money with. And as a promoter, until the dying days, I've heard that the dying days when he shorted guys on money or the box office got broke into or whatever, he had been generous in the days when he did live in a giant mansion and he had money rolling in and he was wearing $1,000 suits in the 60s. He was generous with guys. He started guys or put in words for them or booked them out and got them places to go because a lot of people would take Sheik's word for things. So there was a lot of positive to it until the end. Then at the end, it became an older guy's territory where, the business wasn't so good and the payoffs were down and you worked there because you had to. And the Davidson brothers were the champions. John and Rick Davidson were the tag team champions 5 years after it was Abdullah the Butcher and the Sheik or the Chain Gang. The talent went south. But overall, and once again, especially if you didn't mind getting juice when you worked with the Sheik, you weren't going to go 10 minutes and you weren't going to take a lot of bumps because you were probably going to go down and stay there for most of the time until you had to make your comeback and then he'd beat you or whatever. Guys, at that point, if you're working with the boss of a territory who's a major figured in NWA promoter, you don't care about doing the job. Because you're working on top and you're getting paid and a guy can help you in the future.